This is Louie Zumbaugh with Rush Hour Ag. Leave your message after the tone.
Hey Louie, it's Elliott and Henderson. Can't wait to tell you about
rolling down the back road, truth riding with the dust, talking agriculture policy with people you can trust. From the field to the Capitol, we're breaking it down. Real talk, real issues from a real farm town. Every hour's rush hour when the work won't leave, so we're cutting through the noise and setting things straight.
What's your rush today, Elliott?
All right, welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Rush Hour Ag. I'm your host, Elliott Henderson.
And I'm your host, Louie Zumbaugh.
And we are third time's the charm.
There you go.
Not because we're messing it up.
We just have that much to say.
And we're still unsupervised.
But we are still unsupervised.
So we're back again with Jason Orr. And as we alluded to at the end of the last episode, we're going to talk about
Emissions
and ClearFlame technology.
and getting our diesel pickups back to diesel pickups without death, maybe.
Maybe.
Who knows? What are you hearing? Tell us.
Well, so this is kind of a long story, I guess, but
We got time.
ClearFlame engines.
Okay.
You guys, I know you guys have heard of them. I've talked to Elliott about it numerous times. I've had the opportunity to run the truck.
Lance was on a couple weeks ago. He had one too. You were one of the other ones that were in Iowa, I think.
You talked about tractor, even being that.
Yep, John Deere's got a tractor that's running on 98% ethanol. I got to ride in it this spring at their unveiling. They had it at the NASCAR race.
Yes.
Nice.
I believe they had it at the Farm Progress show as well. I don't know for sure.
I don't know.
I was told it was going to be there. I'm not sure if it ended up showing up or not, but
We really,
We went to the farm
I
practice.
do know that I just got a phone call from a gentleman at John Deere on Monday, and they're gonna have it out in the area doing some testing this fall.
Nice.
They've got a list of farmers that are gonna get to run it and do some tillage and different things with it. They also are hoping that. The reason he called me is since I'm on the promotion board, if I know of any field days or
Sure.
co-op customer appreciations or something like that they're doing during harvest, they'd like to try to get that tractor there in front of farmers to let them see it, feel it, touch it.
Yeah.
I've never gotten to see underneath the hood of it yet. They haven't opened it up. I don't know if they're ready to do that just yet, but they've had engine diagrams and things like that, and there is no def on it whatsoever.
And they run tractors like this in South America?
They got, to my knowledge, there's 2, maybe possibly 3 of these tractors right now.
but other manufacturers are running ethanol tractors.
They could be. I don't know.
I'd heard that, but I think
I don't know for sure.
I think somebody so too.
They very well could be. But I know Deere's they have at least one in Brazil and they have one here in the States.
Okay. All right.
But
That tractor just wouldn't fit in at your house, but it would here. So
when I was at the unveiling, they asked if there's anything they could do to change this tractor. Lance whispered in my ear and said, "Don't tell them to paint it red."
yeah, Massey needs something like that.
Right.
Yeah, well, Jason's a big IH person or case IH person for those that haven't figured that out.
Just the way it worked out.
It's just the way
We had John Deere's
yeah, you still got a 3010 or 3020.
3020, but we had a 8650 4 drive and a 4755 and a 4455, and
But they were the best ones.
just turns out that the local dealer didn't want what we had to trade.
Sure. So let's get back to so you got the ClearFlame on your semi.
Yep.
And you actually got to keep that semi, right?
Well, yeah, we actually ended up buying it from the wholesaler, the receivership. When it
So what is a ClearFlame? What is
ClearFlame, what it is right now, it's a Cummins X15 15-liter engine that's been converted to run on 98% ethanol.
okay?
It's they told us it's like a $45,000 or $50,000 conversion that they're doing. They added a 24-volt start system, and they added a grid heater, and they had to change the tanks to stainless steel tanks instead of aluminum tanks because the ethanol would kind of deteriorate the aluminum or whatever because of the alcohol. They added some onboard diagnostics. At least my truck has got a little monitor in it. I can read cylinder temps and all sorts of different things, and that was all for their testing purposes.
Spark plug, no spark plug.
This has no spark plug. It's combustion start. It's just an
IDS 15 converter.
converted to
Different injectors on it.
Yep, different injectors.
So if it needs some work beyond what you can do to it, where do you take it?
Well, at the time, they had a team. Lance had a truck and I had a truck, and we're 15 miles apart. They had a service trailer that they parked on our farm, or Lance's farm, that had everything they needed in it.
Right.
That's a little bit. At the time when we discussed this, we've got a couple of local mechanics that are willing to dive into it with some guidance, but the whole destruction of the company happened, and it's all kind of been at a halt.
Right.
We actually bought the truck and we were going to just convert it back to diesel
Oh, okay.
because it was sitting in our yard. It needed an injector. I had to burn what fuel I had on hand. I had to burn it out. So I used Lance's truck, and when I was driving it, the dash brake valve broke off in my hand. So I stole the brake valve out of the truck of mine that needed an injector, put it in that truck so I could continue to drive it to burn my ethanol out.
So tell the listeners why this technology is so important for ag, corn ag, especially in Iowa, and how much usage this would drive ethanol. How much usage this would expand the usage of ethanol in our country if we could adopt this technology.
So the burn rate of ethanol is 1.7 times that of fuel. It takes 1.7 times the amount of fuel to equal the same BTUs of diesel fuel of it. And so for one thing, we'd be buying more gallons at a lower cost.
Yeah, because you're like sub $2 for
$1.91 is what we were paying. That's with taxes and everything.
Yep.
So we'd be buying more gallons, therefore we'd be paying more tax, which would be a better economic driver for the state as well. But we saw when my dad and Lance and I, a year ago, right now, it was last week of September, we took a flying trip out to Columbus, Indiana, and toured their facilities because it wasn't related to the corn board or anything. Lance and I pursued this company because we wanted our hands on this engine because we saw the potential of what it could do for the ethanol industry. So Dad, Lance, and I took a quick trip out to Columbus, Indiana, to where they were working on these engines and had them in test cells and things like that. And we went out to dinner with 3 of the folks from ClearFlame that night. And at first we called it an aha moment, but Lance and I think maybe it was an oh shit moment because they
should have been doing it from the get-go.
They completely dropped the ball on what their market was. They were focused on fleets. They wanted trucks that were going to put 100,000 plus miles a year on. They wanted miles for their research and everything else, which makes perfect sense. But it was too difficult logistically to get the fuel. So they were in.
Oh, sure.
They had to be either strategically placed with a company that had terminals where they can place tanks for ethanol to be there, or they had to be on routes that they went out and came home every night.
Right.
I know Casey's General Store ran one, and that was kind of a rough go. Not Warren Transport, but out in Omaha, there's a transport company that ran a few as well. The drivers they're international ProStar trucks, ProStar Pluses. They're just your run-of-the-mill
Fleet truck.
Yeah. They're not a Pete, they're not a Kenworth, they're not the fancy trucks that fleets are now buying. And they weren't getting the feedback that they wanted. The seat squeaked, or it was this or that. They didn't like the physical features of the truck and weren't getting the feedback of the engine. So when we were sitting there at dinner, all we were talking about is, oh my God, the potential. We could haul corn to the ethanol plant. The ethanol plant could have a pump, and you have a scan card. You would never actually even have to physically pay for your fuel because they just take it out of your corn check when you left.
Sure.
And
We're talking about being an insurance ceremony.
The company store, right?
yeah, but and they're sitting there like, and they literally said, this is the first time we have ever sat across the table from potential customers that actually wanted our product and we didn't have to sell it to them.
I've only ever made
Because we saw the bigger picture on the front side.
Right.
why the ethanol plants wouldn't want one. Right.
Yeah.
They're coming back to the plant. Why wouldn't they be running these ethanol trucks?
Exactly. So
Delivering feed.
Lance and I got these trucks and we started putting pictures of them on Facebook and different things, and our phones started ringing off the hook. Lance had like 30,000 hits on a post and just stupid numbers.
Sure.
I had a fella in Western Illinois that is a division manager for Nutrient call me up and say, how do I get 25 of these trucks?
Really?
I had other farmers. I want one of these trucks. Where can I get one? Or what do we got to do? The potential would be huge.
I think we should have rebate programs or something to promote this technology.
Absolutely. So anyway, long story short, back of the envelope math that Lance and I were doing, our miles per gallon were less. Nearly 50% less, but our cost per mile was less as well. We figured we were saving about $0.05 a mile going back and forth to Cedar Rapids, 35 miles by burning ethanol because the fuel is so much cheaper, even though we were burning more of it. So we started crunching the numbers and different things like that. And what it boiled down to was if we could get 50,000 of these trucks or 40,000 of these trucks on the road that were putting 50,000 miles a year on it, which that's an obtainable number. That would equate into like 350 million more bushel of corn that we would need to grind. It's another Cedar Rapids, Iowa, just to supply 40,000 trucks with fuel.
Now being a devil's advocate, because that's what I do best.
Yep.
In your equation, where you're saving a nickel, you're burning twice as much fuel. Environmentally, because everybody knows I'm all about that.
Yep.
How does that compute when you're burning twice as much fuel?
You don't have the emissions. You don't have any carbon.
We don't have any.
Okay, so it's
Zero emissions.
zero emissions.
There's zero emissions. So that leads us back to why we're having the third episode with the EPA.
Right.
So the way this whole thing shook down was when we started getting these trucks, the week we were out there, they had just terminated the CEO of the company. We were there on Thursday. On Monday, the CEO of the company got let go.
Mm-hmm.
So things were a little bit in turmoil
It
then,
was going south.
going south.
Mainly because from what you said, they didn't have really any very good tests going on.
Well, they weren't getting the feedback they wanted for sure.
That's what I was.
For one thing.
Sure.
But what it basically boiled down to was, so they needed 9 months and $15 million to put this engine in a test cell and test it and outfit it with onboard diagnostics that would put it into limp mode and get it off the road if something went wrong. But they're burning fuel that doesn't create emissions, so they had to manufacture and create known faulty parts to put on the engine to tell it to shut down or cause it to shut down to put it in limp mode.
And this was all because of a technicality that the engine block.
It was a diesel engine. Classified as a diesel engine.
And if there was a waiver or something because it's no longer burning diesel.
Correct.
But this $15 million and 9 months of studies was all to be done through the EPA, right? Like the EPA needed this to happen.
They had to do that to get full EPA clearance on these engines to go on the road.
Because diesel engines have to be tested.
Diesel engines have to be tested.
And I said earlier, no carbon. It still emits carbon, but it doesn't have the soot and it doesn't have those particles.
Correct. It's still creating some nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
So that they do still burn DEF. My truck still burns DEF, and it's because of the NOx.
Sure.
But some of that can be eliminated through tuning.
Mm-hmm.
They were fuel. To my understanding, they had them set so they're burning fuel rich. So therefore, they're creating more NOx because they wanted to prove that they weren't creating the soot.
Sure.
They could pour that much fuel to the engine and not create the soot. So they were still creating NOx, which to my understanding, a lot of the NOx was created at startup. Because if it's spark ignited, they don't have to burn DEF.
Correct. Spark ignition engines for burning E98, no DEF on them.
Correct.
That Deere tractor has no DEF on it.
No DEF. No emissions, none of that stuff.
So had we had a different administration, maybe this all would have happened.
I
think stretch.
I think I don't know if it all wouldn't have happened because I'm pretty sure that some of those some of those rules and regulations were created in prior administrations.
Okay.
But I think with the failure of the electric vehicle in the United States right now in the Trump administration, I think right now is the time that we could maybe change the way the
This company's gone.
No, the company is not.
I thought
This is the best part of the story here.
okay. This has changed.
So-
or it's different. I
So
thought.
the company went broke
Yep.
because of the EPA and the 15 million.
Yeah.
And the CEO getting escorted out,
Yeah.
whatever. The board, they had a EPA waiver to test these trucks on the road. Okay. When you have an EPA waiver, you cannot do anything for hire. You can't sell the technology. You can't haul a load for hire. You can't lease a truck, rent a truck. You can't do anything for profit
Okay.
with an EPA waiver. Okay. So they were running strictly on venture capitalist money.
Okay.
Because of the hurdles and the amount of money it was going to take to get EPA approval, a portion of the boardroom wanted to send the technology to South America where they didn't have
That's
to
what I
deal
thought
with it.
happens.
No.
That didn't happen. Well, that's good.
They wanted to send the technology to South America. Boardroom got in the pissing match. And to my understanding, some of the investors pulled their money and they were broke overnight. And they went into receivership and to bankruptcy. They had an auction. Long story short, to my knowledge, from what we've been told, they scrapped all the trucks. They went to a salvage yard,
Okay.
except for the one that my dad and I bought, or that dad bought.
Yeah.
And we gave peanuts for it.
Right.
Because those trucks, without the technology, they're virtually no value.
So how can you bring it back to life? I'm asking.
So Lance Lillibridge and I, the ironic part about it is the new owner of the ClearFlame company that owns the IP, intellectual property now,
Yeah, is
the CEO that was escorted out the week that we went to tour the plant.
so he brought her back,
BJ Johnson bought the IP.
and now what's he doing?
So we've been in conversation with him. He knows that I have a truck.
Yeah.
They are currently remanufacturing some injectors and working on getting me a set of injectors. The goal is sometime in the not so distant future, I will be running that truck back and forth to Cedar Rapids, burning 98% ethanol again.
And we'll get this CPA 9-month thing going.
So Lance has actually gotten a chance to get a few seconds with Director Zeldin from the EPA
Okay.
and some of his team to talk about changing some of the classifications of these things to the type of fuel that they do.
It's not diesel.
It's not a diesel.
Right.
Classify it by
Makes sense.
the fuel that it burns instead of the type of engine that it supposedly is.
Well, that would seem smart. I mean, back in the 80s, they had diesel. Some of the first diesel pickups were just a gas engine.
Yep.
Or 5.7.
I don't remember. I just remember Chevy.
6.5 turbo diesel Chevy had.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have V8.
Kind of a pile, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one in a car at one time.
The gutless
poor
one.
guy.
It was I drove up to college. It was
He couldn't squeal the tires, but he could pour some nice ones.
Rome or something.
Couldn't drive it back and forth to Cedar Falls for a month without filling up with fuel.
Yeah.
That was known.
Yeah,
You had to pull the lighting flake down on the back.
You were the smoke in the
So yeah, we have a truck. I just had it running, drove it around the yard on Friday. It's got a bad injector. But Lance's truck, before they let it go, they'd put new injectors in it and they were very promising the way they were performing.
Too bad you couldn't swap them out.
Right. We didn't know
What was happening?
we didn't know what was happening. There was a lot of things that, there'd probably be 2 or 3 trucks sitting around had we known we just threw an offer out on it because they were going to tow it. Well, they didn't want to pay to have it towed back to Geneva, Illinois
Sure.
from Raleigh, Iowa. So it sat and sat and sat and sat.
You can do that on Sunday afternoon.
And well, if it had a decent injector and you could trust to drive it that far, without melting down a piston or something like that.
What's the call to action on this today? Like, what do we do? What do the listeners do to try to promote this and so something happen?
So right now we're told that the new ownership of the company, they're good financially for a year plus.
Okay.
And they're working on getting this thing back off the ground. And he wants to focus on the agricultural market because the agricultural market sees the value on both sides of the fence.
Right.
Well, it's a self-serving interest of ours, so why can't we support it?
So I've spoken to some members of Minnesota Corn. I've spoken to some people on the Grains Council Ethanol Action Team. There's a lot of people that have put some money into this, and Iowa Corn invested a pretty decent amount of money into this company. That the spark is back alive. We're all kind of waiting in the weeds to see what happens and how it's going to play out. But I hope that, I don't think we'll have it running during harvest. But I sent a video to BJ Friday when I had the truck running and said she's Bonnie. They had names for all their trucks. My truck's name's Bonnie. I said, Bonnie's alive. She's running a little rough, but she's alive. And he said, we're working on injectors for it right now. So
Nice.
I don't know if that means next week, next month. I don't know when, but right now our intentions is we're going to get it back to burning ethanol or leave it the way it is and not convert it back to diesel. And we just looked at it as a cheap farm truck and we were going to have it converted back, but now we're going to try to run 98 in it again.
I think this all boils down to, I don't know if it's the motto of Iowa Corn, but corn grows, Iowa grows corn, but corn grows Iowa. Yeah. And regardless of where you work in Iowa, what you do, somewhere that comes back to an Iowa farmer and the soil and the corn that's growing on it.
Yep.
And whether you really realize that or not. I mean, I don't care if you're teaching school in the state or if you're selling insurance or you're bartending somewhere. And chances are you're somewhere you go back into
Absolutely.
You go back into ag.
And what would we do as farmers if we had to feed corn to another Cedar Rapids, Iowa every day of the year?
What would be wrong with that?
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
But that's, granted, that could be 10, 15 years down the road, but that's the potential that this has.
Sure.
I mean, and if it maybe Iowa Corn or Growth Energy or Eco Energy or some of these huge conglomerations of ethanol companies that own all these ethanol plants or some sort of a grower member type company or organization incentivize this thing to get it on farms. Maybe you get a nickel premium for every bushel that you deliver if you're driving an ethanol truck. I know I've talked with a gentleman at the John Deere event. I talked to a gentleman from Homeland Energy, and that was the kind of rabbit hole he was going down thinking about this thing, is how they as an ethanol plant could incentivize farmers to have this technology on their farm because they saw the value in it. And I know at the race we spent some time in Growth Energy's suite, and everybody has got a pretty close eye on what's going on with ClearFlame right now. And if that truly is the focus, is getting it in the hands of farmers, we as farmers could possibly write our own destiny.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for coming. I don't mean to break short, but we knew how much camera time we had, and we're nearing the end of that.
How can listeners get a hold of you for more questions? Where are you at? How can they?
I'm on Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't TikTok much, but
For smoke signals.
That's Lance's deal.
Okay.
No, Facebook, message me. Call you guys, call me, something.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
I hope the listeners rush on back for another exciting episode of Rush Hour Ag.